Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Spiggs Gaming, and today I'm doing something different. I am interrupting my playthrough of Middle-earth: Shadow of War because, well, from yesterday's video, I was getting very annoyed. Hey everybody, so I'm in a bad mood, so I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing some reaction videos, both related to anything in the Halo universe. And by all of the reaction videos that I've done, the YouTuber that I watch them are from this channel called Hidden Xperia. And this guy is a total Halo nerd. Awesome. Go check out his channel. I'll link it down below for you guys. Any further ado, I'm going to be reacting to the elite who secretly hunted the Master Chief during Halo Combat Evolved. So that is very interesting. I've played that game many times before, so let's see what this is about. I'm very interested.
Hey guys, welcome back. What if I told you that during the entire campaign of Halo Combat Evolved, you were secretly being stalked? What if I told you that there was an elite with a personal vendetta and will to assassinate you who at all times was only one step behind you? What if I told you that many of the enemy encounters that you faced during the campaign weren't random? In fact, they were orchestrated, traps set up by this elite to assassinate you.
Dang.
What if I told you that this elite is one of the few and easily most significant named Covenant characters in the entire game, and that we even fought him? What if I told you that this elite had a pet grunt? What if I told you that I'm gonna stop saying what if I told you and get on with the video?
Finally.
Right, folks, today we are taking a look at the divine operations of one Zuka Zamami, an elite Spec Ops officer who received personal blessings by the prophets to carry out his duties and seek revenge on the demon.
Oh dang, come on, let's go. I'm excited.
Zuka's story begins during the raid on the Pillar of Autumn. He led a small battle group of grunts into the ship where he initially encountered Chief and Cortana trying to escape. Realizing this was one of the heretical demons, Zuka was quick to engage, but Chief was even quicker to retaliate, shooting the elite in the face with his magnum. The 12.7mm round went straight through the elite's visor, but only managed to skim his head before coming to a stop at the back of his helmet, knocking him clean out. As I'm sure you can imagine, in his absence, all of his grunts were also massacred. Poor guys. As Keyes took the Autumn on a one-way trip down to the ring and the chaos on it continued to ensue, Zamami just lay there, unconscious. But his story was not over yet. A group of grunts, timid and afraid of meeting their end on this demon ship, stumbled across his body. Initially hesitant to save him, their leader, one Yayap, realized that if they were to escort him to safety on a lifeboat, they could not only avoid combat, but also their inevitable death. So Yayap, along with the 4 other grunts in his squad, each grabbed a limb and dragged Zuka Zamami to safety.
Oh dang.
However, little did Yayap know, in avoiding this battle, he just signed his own grunty death warrant. When Zuka eventually awoke, he honoured the grunt with the role of his new assistant, considering that his previous one was unfortunately massacred on board the Autumn. Now, being a Spec Ops officer blessed personally by the prophets, Zuka was relentless. He was essentially a fanatic, awarded his rank for his limitless willingness to risk not only his own life, but that of his squad as well to further the great journey. And yet, Yayap had no choice but to accept the offer, and with one of Halo's most prominent iconic duos now formed, Zuka let Yayap in on his plan to seek revenge on the demon who wounded him.
Oh dang.
He told the grunt that he believed the human who wounded him was such a capable warrior that he poses not only a threat to himself, but also to the entire battle group, and that if the records were to be believed, he may very well be a demon solely responsible for the death of thousands of holy warriors. However, he vowed that these would be this demon's final days. He met with the Council of Masters on board the Truth and Reconciliation and proposed his plan to hunt and kill this warrior before any more holy blood could be spilt. Now, initially the Council were actually split. Soha Rolami, an elite aristocrat, turned down the idea, but After the demon's successful raid of the ship and saving Captain Keyes, his tune very quickly changed, and the council blessed Zuka to carry out this holy mission. One of them, going by the name of Linglin, even went so far as to accidentally fire an overcharged plasma pistol into the back of a hunter, instantly killing it and letting Chief overwhelm the ambush team.
Oh.
Slaughtered the grunts and also the last hunter, decapitated Linglin, and then made his way through the facility as Zuka and Yayap hid in a cargo pod. This marked their first failure, something the council would not take lightly. When he reported back to them, he was given one last attempt before he was gravely punished for his failures. The Prophet of Stewardship, a lead member of the council, even brandished the decapitated head of the aristocrat, Rolamy, beheaded for his failure to prevent the flood outbreak on the ring. This was the true price that Zuka would pay should he fail once more. So, he changed up his game plan. Instead of laying traps, he decided to conduct an infiltration mission. He arranged for Yayap to be captured by the humans and taken to their primary base of operations on the ring, Alpha Base.
Oh, dang.
Then alert the elite of Chief's arrival there so the invasion could begin. To ensure that his capture was as authentic as possible, Yayap was beaten up and left bloody and bruised next to a destroyed ghost, and also given a fitting cover story should he be interrogated. After about 5 hours of just lying there, waiting for something that he wasn't even sure would happen, he heard and then smelt approaching humans. They checked him over for fatal injuries and then hogtied the poor little bastard and put him in the back of a warthog.
Oh, dang.
En route to Alpha Base. Meanwhile, Zuka was watching from the shadows, pretty pleased with himself. The first part of his plan had succeeded. The base's invasion and the death of the demon were now inevitable.
But you're a scumbag!
In the dead of night, a mysterious transmission came into Alpha Base from a pelican, Charlie 217. Now, what made this transition mysterious was that Charlie 217 had been missing in action since the Autumn crashed on the ring 2 days prior.
Yeah, we knew this.
Doubting the transmission's legitimacy, Alpha requested Charlie's pilot identify their name, rank, and serial number. First Lieutenant Rick Hale, serial number 876544321. It seemed entirely legit, but just to make sure, the base was put on high alert, and a reaction force was sent to landing pad 3 to greet Charlie 217 as a precautionary measure. If only they knew what Charlie 217 was really harbouring. Once Rick concluded his transmission and turned off his mic, he turned to his co-pilot, Zuka Zamami. When the Autumn had come down, the crew of the 217 had been captured by the Covenant, and to get into the base, he'd been used as a decoy by Zuka to trick the humans. And it had worked. So far, his plan was working almost flawlessly.
Holy
In
crud.
a seeming out-of-character moment for a Covenant fanatic such as himself, he actually told Hale that he'd done a good job and thanked him, which in itself would have been a pretty worrying sign to the lieutenant, before dropping a green circle of light around his neck. Before Rick could react to what it was, Zuka pulled 2 handles on either side of the circle, which tightened a sharp wire around the pilot's neck. This contraption was an energy garrote, and he held it tightly around his neck until the pilot stopped kicking. And when he did, a strange, foul stench emanated from his body. He'd soiled himself. Lovely. Zuka then went into the cargo bay to brief his squad. A squad of 30 Spec Ops elites, all armed with active camouflage units and weapons, and trained for infiltration. Their job? To capture 6 Pelican landing pads in the base and hold them until Covenant reinforcements could arrive. Before they landed, though, and before their mission began, Zuka told them to remember this moment, that this battle, this victory, is one that will be woven into their family's battle poems, to be sung by generations to come. He told them that the prophets had blessed this mission and that they blessed them personally.
Battle
That
poems?
those who transcend the physical will be welcomed into paradise. And with that, the Pelican touched down on landing pad 3, and the invasion was ready to begin.
You survived and have become a sentinel.
New Glow Paradise Balm and Lipstick. Sheer natural shine. From L'Oreal Paris.
Yayap listened from his cell 3 levels down as the battle begun. 6 hours prior, he'd activated his transponder, indicating that he'd seen Chief in the base. This, however, wasn't the be-all, end-all. Yayap was convinced that Chief had left the base before the invasion began, which was actually correct. But nevertheless, Zamami came to free him and asked him where the demon was, and he lied, saying that he was guarding the banshees the humans had stolen. However, by this point, the invasion of the base was not going as planned. Zamami had been monitoring the command net, keeping close tabs on how it was going, and the humans were putting up a much more relentless defense than he'd expected. On their way to the banshees, Zuka's plasma rifle overheated with a squad of marines pushing on his position. He had a brief moment of almost assurance, knowing that this was the moment that he'd die. But at the last second, Yayap tossed a plasma grenade which struck one of the marines and decimated the entire squad, saving the elite.
Holy crud.
No time to thank him, they kept moving until they reached the banshees, where it turned out they were entirely unguarded. This sent Zuka into a fit of rage, threatening to kill Yayap for lying to him. But Yayap, mustering all of his grunty courage, actually aimed his plasma pistol at the elite's head and explained that he had no idea personally how to fly a banshee, but he
I'm tired.
did. And with how badly the invasion was going, and also how much he didn't want to die, he proposed that the two just flee for their lives. Now, normally, this is something that Zuka would have absolutely just not tolerated. It was one of the most dishonorable things that was ever possible. He probably would have just executed Yayap right there and then in most situations. But this wasn't most situations.
No.
He knew full well that if he went back to the council with another failure under his belt, they would have had his head.
Yeah.
So he had no choice but to comply. And the two hopped in the Banshee
And they fled.
left the battlefield. However, they could only remain on the run from the Covenant for so long. They needed food, water, and most importantly, methane. And the only place they could get those supplies was a Covenant camp, the closest of which happened to be at the crash site of the Pillar of Autumn.
Oh, dang.
So they decided to undertake the identities of warriors that died at Alpha Base and pretend to have been captured by the humans, but managed to escape so they could easily integrate themselves into the camp without anyone realizing that Zuka was essentially a dishonorable elite who fled the battlefield and who the council would more than likely execute for such a thing. However, much to the content of both Zuka and Yayap, Yayap's plan worked flawlessly, and the two began undertaking tasks for the commander at the camp until something absolutely monumental occurred.
The demon
The
appeared.
demon arrived at the ship. They were already having trouble with the flood, finding new ways to constantly break into the ship, but now the demon had arrived. The commander was getting increasingly confused, frustrated, and more so than anything, secretly frightened. He needed rid of this threat, and when he proposed that one of his elites hunt him down, Zamami was the first to offer, and within minutes he'd left the briefing and the hunt was on. He ordered Yayap to remain in the communication center so he could provide him with all the necessary information to hunt down the Spartan, which was really a blessing in disguise for the Grunt. The furthest he could be away from the combat, the better.
Yeah.
The plan was for Yayap to find out where the Spartan was going to be heading next, as opposed to discovering his current location, so that then Zuka could lay a trap. Now, it didn't work first time, but I guess second time's the charm, right?
No.
Yayap heard that Chief was going to be leaving the ship via lift V-1269.
Yeah.
He immediately let Zuka know, suddenly feeling a strange sense of affection towards the elite. After thanking him, Yayap told him to be careful before ending the call, knowing full well that would more than likely be the last time that he'd ever speak to the elite. Considering what the two had been through, that's kind of a sad thought. With the state of the Covenant and the ship rapidly deteriorating, the Grunts snuck out of the command office and loaded a day's worth of food and a tank of methane onto a Ghost before driving away from the autumn into the sunset, feeling for the first time a true sense of peace, and for the first time in days, feeling genuinely happy. How wholesome.
Holy crud.
Anyways, back on the ship, Cortana called up the exact service elevator that Yayap had predicted, and as it reached the top, Chief was greeted by Zamami, mounted on a shade turret alongside a squad of grunts. Although initially the fight looked to be vastly in Zamami's favour, the tide quickly turned. Cortana very sharply dropped the elevator, sending it into a free fall, and Chief followed up by rolling a few grenades down the shaft. As he fell, the grenades launched Zamami out of the shade before hitting the floor, snapping his spine and killing him instantly.
Oh my
The last
gosh.
thing he saw before death being the demon. And there marks the end of Zuka Zamami. Later on, when Chief blasted out of the hangar bay of the Autumn in a longsword, Yayap watched as the human ship began to explode, knowing his time had finally come. On the bright side, I guess, at least before he was engulfed in flame and ejected into space, Yayap got to experience a sense of peace and happiness just one more time. And that is the story of Zuka Zamami and Yayap, who tried time after time and failed time after time to kill you during Halo Combat Evolved. Now, it is worth noting that the final battle between Zuka and Chief was maybe a little bit more underwhelming in the games than in the book, because in the book, Zuka really had Chief pinned in the shade, but in the game, 9 times out of 10, you just nuke him with a nade as soon as the elevator doors open.
Yeah.
Poor guy. I will say though, rereading this story for this video did give me a newfound appreciation for Zuka and also Yayap as well. And honestly, this might sound really weird, but I did feel kind of sorry for him in the end. Especially when Yayap said that he felt a small bit of affection towards him, because at the end of the day, the two had been through absolute hell to try and accomplish a mission, and they were both pretty much tunnel-visioned. Zuka on Chief and Yayap on just surviving, and despite all their efforts, they both failed.
Okay, so that was very, very weird. I didn't know that like that story like came out of like a book that was written. I know there are like a ton of books that I haven't read, but I didn't know that was like part of like that was actually a thing. That is stinking amazing. Like, oh my gosh. And oh, that's so cool how like that sounds like what they did in like The Last of Us. You know, like at the spoiler alert for anybody who's not played both games, but at the end of the first Last of Us game, you know, you kill a doctor, you know, because you have to, because the game makes you kill him, and you just think, oh, it's fine. Then, you know, then you finish the game. But then the second game comes out, and it tells you that, oh, that character that you thought was insignificant to the whole story, turns out it's a pretty big deal. You know, so that's pretty cool how like in the book like they kind of like made an insignificant character have like his own story and stuff like that. Like I absolutely love that this is very insightful. I've played the Combat Evolved game like numerous times, and it was amazing. I love the game. The only thing I hate about it is where you can't fall more than like 5 feet without dying, and I really hate the library. I just really hate that level. I don't know why. I just really despise that level. So, but beyond those two things, Halo Combat Evolved is like one of my favorites. But yeah, this whole story, like that is really cool. Like I wish we could have like had like a mini series and like actually see it happen instead of us just having to read it, you know. But like seeing it happen, or like if somebody could like make like a little video about it, you know, and then like have people like dub voices and stuff like that, and like one person voice like the elite, one person voices the grunt, and then them being, you know, then like the grunt doing something like funny and cute grunt way. It's like, aw, dang it, you know, that'd be so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, everybody, that is it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, then be sure to smash the like button because that helps out the channel tremendously. Comment down below about what your thoughts are about this dang elite hunting the Master Chief during the Halo Combat Evolved, because that is pretty insane. And comment down below about what book it's from. I kind of want to find this out now. I don't know which book it's from, so please let me know if you guys have read it. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell icon so you can notify whenever I post videos, so you do not miss me doing any more reactions or playing any other games like Middle Earth Shadow of War. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everybody.